All right, so part 4, who are the GPL supporters, or who were the GPL supporters, and who were the HOA supporters, and why have some of these two factions merged? Well, first let's identify who the GPL supporters are. The first one would be, like Terry Miller. I love you too, buddy. Good night, son. And don't forget to shut my door. Thanks, buddy. And so you had, Terry Miller, John Losing, Leo McHale. You had Bonnie Simo. They were all GPL supporters. And then you had Anita Brummett, John Zakari. I think I mentioned John Losing. And I think it was Joan Adams and Rome and somebody else. But anyway, they were two attorneys that Rome and Adams left in disgrace as well. She sold her house without putting a sign up, and or gave it to somebody along those lines. But and then there was a few more, Bartos, a few others that were supporting him. And long story short, those people still remain on that side regardless of what they tell you. They were able to recruit a new group of people, and that group of people, which were the people that once supported the HOA, and now support settling with GPL. And you probably get their emails all the time, and letters, and new websites. So those people are specifically Hal Siegel, who switched to the other side now, Michael Allan, Harriet Cohen, Yvette 2K, Mary Woods, who else? Jan Weber, Tom and Jan Allan, and Andrea Jackson and Jeff Haring. I think those two kind of came onto the scene. I don't think they know much about what's going on at all, to be honest with you, but they support they're now supporting GPL too, and the Settle with GPL crew. And then the next question is, well, Chris, why? Well, it's different for each and every one of them, but the one thing that it seems to be pretty clear to me is they want control of something. They're probably getting attention here within the HOA, like this video and a few others, that they don't get in their professional lives. And so this is kind of filling a gap or a void for them. And that's what it is, generally speaking, when it comes to these types of things. And then I think, when I mentioned about Hal, I think, he has to have a separate attorney represent him. Hal was bribed by David Smith, according to Hal, and then failed to report it, which tells me that he was indeed bribed, and he probably has some reasons that he wants to support GPL now too. And it was always the goal of GPL to get somebody, and Hal, who in his life has had some issues regarding finances, and I think that they knew that. In fact, I have emails from David Smith saying that, and they were going to target him at work, and it paid off, I guess, for him and Hal, I guess, too. So there's those issues, whatever they are, to the extent of which they are, they can always tell you themselves. But the one thing I can tell you unequivocally is we have correspondence between Hal and myself, the legal committee, that clearly states that he was bribed by David Smith and failed to report it. Likewise, when I was bribed, I did report it, and I reported it right away. Because I didn't want to lose our E&O policy and my protections that are afforded to me. Those two things kind of sum up a lot of it. I also think that there's this desire, especially when you become more in touch with your mortality, and as you get older, you maybe want to have some sort of a legacy. And the fact that maybe and you could kind of tell, I think, from my perspective, that's what, maybe the Harriet Cohens and the Michael Allens are going, is, maybe, it's that, they've been such underachievers, for most of their lives. And I know that sounds horrible, but I'm just trying to give you my my perspective on it, because it's a touchy subject. But listen, the stuff that they're putting out is far worse. Anyway, so being underachievers, I see this quite a bit in the business world, where people will try to attach themselves to something and want to be a part of something that really they had very little to do with outside of passing out flyers. And what's really upsetting is at a time where we should be showing unity and we should be together, they're busy stabbing myself and those who are working hard for the HOA in the back, and then, you know, trying to twist it and turn it in, and you know, making a mockery of a very sacred member recall, and you know, being sued, you know, by the board, and being sued and suing the board. I mean, I just can't imagine an HOA who would think that those three individuals, all three who have lawsuits against them or are suing us, or both, would be who you want to have working for the HOA. Never mind the fact of what they said and the serious problem that could incur if they were to come on the board, being that I'm their employee, or would be at that time, and what kind of danger that presents to them and to all of us. It's pretty clear when you look at their website that they're not fit, and that it does kind of fall in line that they know that, they don't care about it, and there's some sort of desire for destruction. And I called it before the arsonist mentality. It's kind of like the people who start a fire, see what's going to happen, they have no plan, they watch it all go up in flames, and they try to walk away from it. And maybe they can. I don't think that they could do that. I mean, their election would be something along those lines. I mean, I don't think they're going to get elected, obviously, but if it was to happen, which you have to think about, then you're looking at, then they've got to deal with myself. And what are they going to do, fire me right away? I mean, there would be, it wouldn't be good. I mean, obviously, because they can't even conduct themselves ethically now. When they get on the board, it'd be even worse, especially because, you know, their senior employee is somebody who they've wanted fired and said horrible things to, and are being sued by the HOA for, and even sued by me. It's a conflict of interest. So if the HOA was to move in that direction, I don't think that they would. Something to ponder. I think that kind of gets you an idea of the reasons why, at least from my perspective, that they're trying to do this now. I also want to make sure that you guys understand that there is a case management conference in January. That could also be a big push. They could deliver to their boss, David Smith, a victory, something to go into court and say, hey, listen, they're not going to win, but let's say if they do, something happens and they do, then they could go to the court, and then, you know, David Smith could get his settle with GPL. And I think I mentioned this before of how that would look. It'd be, we'd either give him a couple $100,000 and they'd say, oh, but we're going to lose millions, just like we were making so much money out of the restaurant, which is laughably silly and ignorant to the extreme. And they would make up some sort of thing like that, like, oh, we only had to pay him $200,000, but hey, look, we're not going to have $20,000, $15,000, $10,000 attorney fees when that happens. And the reality of it is I don't do the scare tactics, but that's not going to be possible, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to fight back as far as the HOA is concerned, with lawsuits of their own. I can guarantee it. It's going to happen if they get elected. I'm just telling you, I have a pulse on the people I spoke to. It's my job. I'm just telling you, what's going to happen. So, man, I'd shoot you straight. Like I said, don't believe in the scare tactics. I'm just trying to put out there with full disclosure and transparency the things that I can. And besides, like I said, Hal's being sued by the HOA, and Harriet's being sued by the HOA, and myself, and Michael Allan's busy suing the HOA and probably will get sued himself and whenever. I mean, and that's their goal, right? Their goal was to, if you listen to them, they'll tell you, oh, yeah, look at the legal bill. And they're like half of it, right? I mean, just their BS alone covers a tremendous amount of it. And that's the unfortunate thing, right? I mean, they're they're being prophets of their own doom, and they're making sure of it. And by the way, how do we know that they're doing what GPL and blah, blah, blah did? So last year, prior to this time, maybe even during this time, Anita Brummett, John Zakari, David Smith, his attorneys, they were concocting the same plan. They created a website, kind of like the one that you may have seen. If you want to go to it, fine. But they're similar to that, where it's just gutter sniping. It's, complete total fabrications of the truth. It's running a mile with a yardstick type thing, and trying to convince you of the pandemonium that's going to ensue, the lies about $400, dues raise, which is silly because we already put out, and I've said this for months now, the dues aren't being raised, and we can't raise them. We've already put out our budget, so it'll stay the same. There's no assessments lingering in any time in the near future. And they use the same tactics. So it's the website, it's the fake emails, it's the anonymous emails, it's the anonymous flyers, it's the, Michael Allan and Mary Wood and Harriet Cohen combining 3 different texts and verbiage in one, coagulated document of, destruction. It's just, you read it and you're just like, they're all over the place, and more indicative of just, that lack of self-control, the lack of intellectual curiosity, and lack of facts. They claim they want certain things for transparency's sake, but what they really want to do is they want to weaponize it. So that's really the in total, the vast majority of those that are out there knocking on your door. Like I said, it's Yvette 2K, it's Harriet Cohen, it's Michael Allan, it's Hal Siegel, it's Tom and Jan Allen, and what's her name, Andrea Jackson, and don't hear so much from Jan Weber, but I know she's behind the scenes doing her thing. Mary Wood's doing her thing behind the scenes too, and then there's some Julianne, somebody that lives across the street, I think, that they've hoodwinked, and her husband that I tried to reach out to, but I think he's a professor, and you'd think that maybe a professor would show a little more intellectual curiosity than just to believe his friends or the people that show up at his house. And I actually want to talk to somebody who could actually explain to him in greater detail the truths that are being misrepresented. So I did reach out to you. I know I hit your email. I don't know if I have your phone number. If I do, I can probably try to find it. But listen, I know it's difficult to want to meet with me, and I've met with a few that were kind enough to meet with me. I don't think not everyone's persuaded, and that's okay. And the reason why I say that is because at least they took the time to listen to what I have to say. And, I talked to Julianne, I think, for like 44 minutes on the phone. We agreed on just about everything. Then I'd say within an hour, all of a sudden it was something very different and oddly peculiar with some of the things that were said, because I think she had a lot of good things to say. But it was kind of like that manipulating of a certain agreement and then morphing it into something that fits a political narrative more than a fact. And so that's that. And I want to be clear that I do understand that it is difficult, because, when you first move into an association, and, the people who show up to your door that are, telling you these lies sound sincere. I know, listen, I believed them too from some of those people, but it took me some time, and it'll take them some time to figure it out as well. And if they figure it out, some people just buy into it, and like in politics, they just roll with it the whole way. A slave to an ideology, so to speak. And so that being said, they don't like to know from somebody like myself, or find out that the people that seemed so authentic and genuine are lying right to your face. It's a tough thing to deal with. I mean, I've had to deal with it recently with quite a few things and quite a few people. And it's shocking. I mean, I can tell you just in the last year, I've dealt with it 5 times more than I did in my entire life before then. So maybe it's something in the water. I don't know. But I can tell you that I do know that's why the vast majority of those who I reach out to that don't respond back, it's not that they don't have time. Of course they do. It's that they're scared. I'm not a mean and nasty person. Quite to the contrary. But I also happen to know what's really going on and have information that they possibly can't, and would be willing to share it with those. I mean, listen, I'm not a fool. I know that there's a few people that will want to meet with me and weaponize something I say, but they'll just look foolish in the end because I'll have the facts and I'll have this channel to put out the truth. And these videos that would substantiate the things that I've said, and not something that they would fabricate that I said in a meeting, because I think everyone knows where I stand. And it's not hard. I don't have to remember much. Just be honest with you the whole time. And that's it. So that kind of wraps up that deal. And again, you know, I understand the scare tactics. I did want to make sure, because I know a few of you have reached out that asked me to kind of say a few things, and I think it's a good idea. Actually, didn't take much convincing at all, but it did take a little bit of time. And that's it. So you guys kind of have an idea now of where all this stuff's coming from, who the bad actors are, why they're acting the way that they are, what's true and what's not true, the financials that they're fabricating and telling you, oh, where's the money? Where's the money? I mean, what they really mean to say is, you know, we couldn't do it better, and we're going to try to find something. And since we can't answer our own question, we'll kind of lead on that, you know, it's got to be bad or it's something there. The money, if you don't know how to read a spreadsheet, if you don't understand numbers, everyone has access to all the information I think we do, with the exception of things that wouldn't have anything to do really with the numbers. The one thing that I think, you know, really bothers them, and I'm going to explain this before I end this thing, is there's this idea that, you know, well, Chris Baroni lent $50,000 or something along those lines to the HOA, and they're mad about that. But when you think about it, right, it's somewhat kind of funny, because one, I don't consider it a loan at all. I gave them money. There wasn't any documents that signed. I trust that the HOA will handle, you know, whatever it is that they need to do in terms of ensuring that I get paid back at no interest and no financing charges. It really is just, it's probably tough for some people to deal with, because, you know, it's not stupid. And I'm going to actually stand up for a part of what they're saying. It's not stupid to believe that somebody would just lend $50,000 to their homeowners association and not expect or get anything in return. And like I said, sometimes the truth hurts the most, right? And here's the truth. They would never do that. So it has to be something else. It has to be something, you know, worse. Because the idea that somebody would do something so, in their mind, extraordinarily silly or odd, or they would never do it, it makes them have to come up with a reason, because they might feel like shit that someone would be willing to do it and not ask for anything in return. They couldn't even conceive of that idea, right? So they'll try to manipulate the kindness of my wife and myself, giving money to the HOA at a time in need, because we had a director or an employee or both contact one of our vendors and kind of, you know, tell them some things that ruined our chances at getting terms. And we needed the money because we needed the efficiencies. And the efficiencies are the investments that we're making to inhibit, you know, long-term higher cost. That's key in what we're doing here. And that's really the truth, is someone would try to manipulate you all into making such an honest and to goodness, you know, agreement with the HOA and the board to help out in a time of need with absolutely nothing in return other than, hey, the money when we can pay for it. And we began that process already. but no interest and nothing else. You know, these are extraordinary times in our HOA. They really are. We've never had a time like this. I'm proud to represent you guys. I'm proud to say that, yeah, that's what I did. I'm proud that you can have this video and you can keep this video, and you should make copies of this video, because when I tell you that my wife and I did what we did out of the kindness of our heart, that's exactly what I mean. And I think that, you know, something that, you know, some people take pride in giving, and they don't mind. And I think that with the current composition of the board, you know, we were confident that, yeah, we might not be earning the interest that we normally would, or anything like that, but that the long-term benefit to this was worth it. And I think the majority of you watching this, and you'll know that that's true too. Otherwise, boy, that would look really silly if that wasn't. And I put that all out there for you guys here. The fact of the matter is, I wouldn't be telling you that way if it wasn't true. So that's it. And we're going to be doing better this time next year, just like I said the year before, when I made it clear that if the first legal opportunity would get GPL out, we did. Most everybody never thought it would happen as soon as it did. And we got a lot of great things going on, and we'll start putting some of those pieces together for y'all, and you all, or y'all, however that, my Texas friends, we'll put some of that together for you guys, and you'll have it. So again, thank you guys so much. I'm glad take like 4 on this turned out to be halfway decent. It's tough when I criticize myself as worse than my haters out there criticizing me now. So that's why when we get together, it's not that big of a deal in terms of the criticisms. But the truth will set us free, and you've heard it here. You have it. It's forever. My face and voice and names on it. Get some of the people who are sending you the flyers and the website stuff to do the same. I think there's your probably a good indication of who's shooting you the truth. All right. Thank you guys again. I'm out of here. Have a great week this week, and hopefully see you guys soon. Thanks.